Hey everybody, long time no see. This is Chris with Chris's Comments. All right, man. I've been busy working, and I've been going to from one job to an entirely different one, and I was actually very content with this. I hadn't had done a segment in quite a while, but something made me come back to this, and it's a review that I'm going to be doing mostly based off of this lab leak theory. Now, the lab leak theory is, according to FBI Director Chris Wray and some representative from the U.S. Department of Energy. I noticed the president didn't even bother to post his name, probably because of how whacked out this new theory is. The theory is that investigations to COVID and its origins claim that it's most likely came out of a lab leak in Wuhan. Okay? A lab leak is the culprit to the pandemic that we had to endure back in 2020, starting in 2019, all the way up to now in 2023. Which I gotta say, the lab leak theory. Now I go back to my opinion because I really don't have anything else to say about this. It's total bullshit. It's total BS. I'm sorry. Look, and I don't mean to spit. It's just that honestly, it doesn't really coincide with anything that they're saying. That it was leaked through a bat and all this good stuff, and one bat got infected and spread everything and all this stuff. And that's, that would be believable except for the timing. The first and primary thing that caught my attention when it was said that is the timing. It's called COVID-19 for a reason because it was formed in 2019. Okay. Now, by the beginning of 2020, within the first quarter of 2020, quarter year of 2020, it was already a threat to the whole world. Now that's a speedy, spread of the virus. I mean, that is incredibly fast. So the timing is just incredibly off for them to say this kind of crap. The others is the clues. Okay. The cases of contaminated foods in the shipping industry. Now, I've mentioned this before. When I first started this, this podcast. I mean, this came out as far back as February of or June or whatever of 20, whatever the title was, AAPI, which is Asian American Pacific Islander. I'll have to look it up when I post it. For some reason, back then when I first started, I never really wrote down the post times whenever I posted these. But if you was to actually go to my website, scroll down all the way to the beginning of, in 2021, you would know that the title AAPI is where I actually started talking about this contamination of foods in the shipping industry. Now that makes a whole lot more sense. Okay? That makes a whole lot more sense than one bat, or even a couple of bats for that matter, transporting the virus all over the world to where it's now this threat. Okay? And the thing is that people in the seafood, meat, vegetable markets, as cases emerge starting out of the shores of Wuhan, the docks of Wuhan and Beijing and all these other places, it was the CCP that silenced them. Okay, they told them to be quiet about it, not say anything, and in some cases, people that were talking were arrested, and a small number of that vanished off the face of the earth. Which it's a very safe assumption to assume that they got killed by the CCP. Okay. And I know I've said this before. I say it every time with Stop Hating Asian segment and the AAPI segment again, ... in parentheses, again. Again. because stuff like this kind of crap just keeps coming up, and it's it's total BS. We've got a long list of evidence that says so. Okay, Dr. Li Meng Yan, a whistleblower that had to flee over here to U.S. She's hiding somewhere in this continent, in this nation. She's in hiding right now from the CCP to this day, and this was as far back as May of 2020. No, excuse me. No, even earlier than that. This was the start around the same time as Wei Fang and Wen Liang and Yi Feng, the cardiologist. You know, as far as May of 2020. I'm sorry. Yeah, May of 2020. So I was correct. Sorry, it's just been a long time since I reviewed the notes that I wrote down. But yeah, I mean, Dr. Li Meng Yang, from as far back as the middle of 2020, she started talking about the virus, and it came out of the Wuhan laboratories and all this other stuff based off of the deductions that she had after examining infected people. And it turns out she had to flee the country because she was being silenced by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, and that lady actually survived. Okay, that lady actually survived. And why I say that? Well, because there was a murdered professor out of the University of Pittsburgh. B&E looked like somebody got killed through B&E, except nothing was stolen and there was no form of hate being brought. It was just a clean shot to the head like an assassin. Okay? Boom. Break in, boom, gone. The professor is dead. He was a professor at the University of Pittsburgh who exposed the virus and claiming that it could only come out of somewhere out of Wuhan laboratories. A murdered businessman named Fang Bin, who video exposed a minibus full of COVID-ridden corpses just outside of a hospital, on one side of a hospital in Wuhan. Okay, when all this stuff started to form over there, this guy videotaped a minibus full of corpses, sent it throughout the internet, shared it with everybody throughout the world, and was silenced. He's dead. Okay, he never got a chance to leave China. This was all in China, around Wuhan, and he's dead. He got killed. Okay. Also, the murdering of a former civil rights lawyer, Chen Qishi, and I'm not really sure that I'm saying that correctly, because it's Qishi, so I'm just used to enunciating it that way. He vanished off the face of the earth, reporting the situation in Wuhan. This is a former civil rights lawyer, saw a situation concerning COVID and a lot of people dying over there. He reported it and was jailed, arrested. He's never come out of jail ever since. He's been arrested and he just disappeared off the face of the earth. Same thing with his friend, Xu Xiaodong, who managed Chen Qishi's YouTube account. He was arrested by the CCP, forced into quarantine, accused of being a COVID carrier, and he's never been seen since. So that's another murdered person that's exposed the Wuhan laboratory virus coming out of, the COVID coming out of Wuhan labs. Now, to say that it was a leak based off of a bat, once again, here in 2023, it's just ridiculous. It's spitting on the dead who actually braved exposing the truth about COVID-19. Okay, it's an insult to the dead. All right. Look, and I don't really mean to be so negative about this, but the fact that we have all this evidence, it clearly states that the virus was distributed and 100% verifiable. This was no lab leak. Okay, this was not some bat that got infected and escaped captivity and flew out and then just spread everything like some kind of, uh, um, some kind of apocalyptic version, some kind of biblical form of plague, you know. This thing was planted, it was distributed and spread, particularly after silencing so many that blew the whistle of its spread and the knowledge of its lethality. Okay? This was definitely something that had not leaked by a simple little animal. And I am not the only one stating this. Now, you got this guy, Jon Stewart, who's saying it a little bit more on a humoristic level, but he's not wrong. The point of the matter is that he's not wrong in saying that this lab leak thing is just total BS. Even a guy like me with a GED, who's nothing but a warehouse worker now, used to be a rideshare driver. Even a little guy with a GED like me, can see clearly that this is total bullcrap. Okay. Which brings me to another downer subject, and I do apologize if I'm bringing this up, but it's true. What's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of anti-Asian American Pacific Islanders hatred that's going to be formed. The worst thing about this bullshit theory, the worst thing about it is that it's going to restart the hatred once again to the Asian American Pacific Islanders. And again, that have nothing to do with the pandemic. They had nothing to do with this virus. And anybody so far that did were professors and scientists that exposed the truth about it, that were forced into being silenced and that were killed. Those are the only Asians that were involved with it, that with COVID. And they were exposing what the Chinese Communist Party had done. You understand? They were being good Samaritans, no different than any of us here in the States. They saw a danger. They exposed the truth. They got silenced. People, we can't let this we can't let this fuel our hate. Plus, this news is going to feed into the fuel and the anger of the conservative extremists, which will embolden their speeches and preaches of hate, and that's putting it mildly. The most popular quote is, the government's going to try to calm you down to get you ready for the next scare. It's all about governmental control. Blah, 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 blah. Which we all know, they could be right in saying this. Nothing is going to be proving them wrong in saying this. Because, and this is really our own government's fault. If they should have just stuck with their guns, if they had just sticked with the guns, claiming that this is what the CCP's doing, the U.S. would have had a perfect government-leveled crime busters advantage, okay? By putting the CCP in a corner, the way they did with Putin, the CCP would have been forced to back off, and the U.S. would have, strengthened itself. And it would as well. And now, for those of you who are saying, what do you mean by the way of putting it in Putin? Well, the oil and fuel sanctions is a very prime example of what I'm talking about. Biden said no to Putin's oil. Why? Because it's not Russian oil. It's stolen Ukrainian oil. It's stolen Croatian oil. It's stolen Crimean oil. It was stolen Bosnian oil. Okay? None of that oil was actually Russian oil. It was blood oil taken out of Russia's neighboring countries. Okay? And Biden said no more. Germany backed us up. Europe backed us up. The majority of the Americas have backed us up. Okay? This is a government leveled crime busting advantage. We're not taking blood oil anymore. Okay? And and don't get me wrong, we're still kind of struggling, but there's a method to this that we can clearly see where Biden is trying to outlast the oil companies to start drilling properly, legally, and with regulations not ruining our land. Okay? But back to the crime busting advantage. I mean, yeah, we're getting oil, we're tending to our own selves, and we are not buying any more blood oil. Same thing with Saudi Arabia. He went to Saudi Arabia, said, hey, can we work out a deal? And the Saudis literally told Biden, no, you will buy our oil, you will pay full price, no matter what reporter I murder for exposing my dirty deeds, and you know, you will agree to those terms. They slammed the door on Biden. Biden went over to Venezuela. Hey, can we work out a deal? They said, no, you will take all of our refugees, every person that we kick out of my country, you will take those immigrants and you will buy our oil, or no deal. This is the crime busting, and it started with Putin, but technically it moved on to those other countries. Now Venezuela's working deals with Exxon and all them. The only country that isn't is Nicaragua currently. It is now Tuesday, February 28th, 2023, and the only country here in the Americas that's doing business with Putin is Nicaragua, out of all of the Americas. Now that's some serious negotiated peace making, crime busting advantages. Okay? Now revert that very same tactic to the Wuhan laboratory and the CCP's attempt of spreading the virus. Okay? To accept this babbling bullcrap lab leak theory is to let the CCP get away once again with their bullshit, with their bullcrap, their tactics of destroying people around the world, especially after destroying their own people who once again were reporting the coronavirus, thinking that they were doing a good job. They were reporting a problem. They were reporting a spread of a virus that is dangerous, and they were forced into being silenced. You understand? If we had just stuck with our guns and said this is a problem caused by the CCP instead of this bat got loose theory, you know, we would still have Chinese Communist Party backing off. They've been cautious this entire time with their next moves. And so far here in the States, we've gotten a little bit of payback, a little bit of crime busting going on here in Texas. Here in Texas, a former Chinese Communist Party agent had bought large lumps of Texas land, drilled illegally with fracking and so forth, and pulled out a lot of light natural gas or liquid natural gas, whichever way you want to look at it as. And instead of America profiting off of that, he had it all shipped to the CCP, not even to Chinese, to the CCP, where the CCP will sell it at their own discretion. Okay? Not even the citizens of China would benefit off of this, especially our own American citizens here in America. Okay? Now, the CCP has also had members, former members, buy pig farms over in northeast U.S., where one of the largest poultry pork industry is now owned by the CCP. Okay? And in doing so, throughout the pandemic, millions of pigs over in China were buried alive, which is technically not the best way to get rid of animals that are infected with COVID. At least that's what they said. The animals are infected with COVID, so we have to kill them all. And their idea of doing that was using one of those backhoe tractors that dug a big giant pit, and then with that same tractor pushed all the pigs into the pit that was farming. And this is totaled up to about millions of pigs that could have been, the Chinese Communist Party could have fed the world with, and had a little bit left over for the food banks and charity food drives and stuff. Instead, they slaughtered all of those pigs over there, and they joined the inflation price hikes here in the US. So there's a lot of starving people around where there could have been benefit, and to top it all off, there's a lot of people who can't get that pork or choice of pork, whether it be a necessity of salt intake or their saturated fats, the necessary fat levels and sugar levels, if not just plain and simply wanting a ham, okay? Not without having to pay top dollar for that ham, for the pork, for the meat, okay? Whether it be for health concerns or just simple eating luxury choices. Okay. Now we've got a problem with that. We've got a problem with light natural gas. Nobody's benefiting off it. It is going straight to the CCP. We've got profits off of this. We got profits off of I can't remember what the plant was. I want to say soy, but I'm thinking it's more corn. A plant that the CCP owns miles and miles of that plantation. Okay, which is all just part of the high costs of inflation, and then the businesses here that are joining in with doing it. But what they don't know is that those foreign-owned companies are, benefiting the foreign-owned powers. One of them being the CCP, which is a very serious thing, because they've been known to killing a lot of their own people, and now killing around the world with the virus spread, and of course the corporate greed. So yeah, I mean, we had every advantage to take advantage of, and for some oddball reason, the U.S. just plain dropped the ball by accepting this lab leak theory. If they're smart, if there's any hope of keeping the CCP from trying to sneak off with another move or tactic that hurts our country or other countries for that matter, the U.S. is going to have to seriously backtrack. They're going to have to take it back on the lab leak theory, and go back to full blown claims that the CCP was involved with this, if not responsible for the coronavirus, the COVID-19 in particular, spreading of COVID-19. It just makes more sense to do that instead of accepting, oh, well, a bat got out and that's how it all started. No, absolutely not. That is not. And plus, it's a spitting on a Dr. Li Wenliang, the ophthalmologist, that was the first whistleblower back in December of 2019. He reported the symptoms, and he wound up passing away later. He filmed himself where the virus had attacked his liver, broke it down, and his flesh started to rot. It started to blacken. It started to rot, and that was happening a few days before he finally passed away, before his lungs finally gave in as well. And the same thing with Dr. Wen Hu Wei Feng, who was a urologist that wound up dying in June. Dr. Yi Feng, a cardiologist, his skin turned black also due to liver dysfunction, and it happened within a 4-month battle of trying to preserve his life. The CCP quarantined those scientists and doctors, and just let them die. They recorded the effects of COVID-19, and if it wasn't for these doctors who snuck out footage of themselves dying as a cause of it, you know, it wouldn't have made, the coronavirus wouldn't have made such an impact. There would have been more of us here in the U.S. especially who would have believed that it was a hoax. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that these doctors, these brave doctors, snuck out file footages of them dying caused by the COVID that wound up destroying, that wound up dysfunctioning the liver and breaking down the respiratory system. Okay. There would be tons of us, lot more than what we already had, that would have actually believed that the COVID-19 was a hoax and that it was not a threat. You know, the reports of the shipping industry, you know, that would have still left skeptical. But you add that onto the footage of those doctors that filmed themselves dying by COVID-19. You know, the simple fact that one Dr. Li Meng, you know, she had to leave China, escape China, to get away from disappearing off the face of the earth by the Chinese Communist Party after whistleblowing on China and the coronavirus. Okay, you know, that also contributes to the simple fact that this was no hoax. Okay, a doctor had to leave China; she can't go back. Another professor, a professor out of University of Pittsburgh, who's just doing his job, talking about the coronavirus, talking about, you know, all this good stuff. You know what scientific professors do. He made a paper on COVID-19, tracing it all the way to Wuhan because of the genetic code of that virus, which could only been built out of a particular laboratory, which was the Wuhan laboratory. You know, he did that on a paper, and he wound up getting gunned down in his home. Again, a professional hit right to the head. It was a B&E shooting, and that was it. Nothing was taken. No files were destroyed. You know, no other research was abolished. You know, yeah, and it only makes sense. There's no point in taking off with his computer if he already typed up the paper and distributed it across the internet. You know, there's no point in taking the computer anymore. You know, all the evidence and all the studies and examinations already got distributed. The only thing that was left to do was to silence this professor. Again, a Chinese-born professor out of the University of Pittsburgh. Professor Bing Liu. Okay, came out in the middle of May 7th, 2020. I did not write down what article that it was or what news reporting it was, and I do apologize for that. Again, this was back in the early stages of 2021 when I was new into doing this. But yeah, you've got a list of people that were murdered. You got a list of doctors and testimonies, and then you got a list of people out of the shipping industry that testified that COVID was in existence in contaminating foods, okay, and contaminated foods. And they weren't just going to America, they're going to Australia, they're going to certain parts of Europe, and they were silenced by the CCP. And this is the reason why I had to bring this up again, okay? This lab leak, people, my fellow people, don't believe it. The lab leak theory is a lie. It is a BS lie. All of this evidence shows that, okay? All of this evidence shows that the list of dead people, the list of dead professors, the list of dead, say one in witness protection, okay, and then silenced shipping industry workers. I mean, come on. All of that took place for us to believe now that it was a bat that got away. Come on, people. All right, I'm done, and I'm going to stop right there. And I just want to say, I want to thank you for all of you that have been keeping an eye out for any time that I did post. My new work has me very exhausted, because it's a lot of manual labor now, as opposed to when I used to post something almost every day concerning whatever subject that I felt like talking about, during the time that I was a rideshare driver. I'm not doing that anymore. There's a little bit of health concerns that took place that has me going back to manual labor work and revitalizing my health, my body, my strength. And I'm going to be posting fewer and fewer times, and I do apologize for that. But my health is a concern right now, and I have to tend to it. However, I am going to close it once again. I mentioned Jon Stewart. He's on top of the BS of the lab leak. By all means, review what he's got to say on his podcast. Go to, I think it's the Young Turks. I don't think it's the Young Turks. I think it's like Rebel something, Rebel HQ, which is a branch off of the Young Turks. They tackled that also. There's a bunch of people that have, and I completely forgot them. I should have written them down. I do apologize for that. But also stay in tune for the rest of the people, the Young Turks, Ring of Fire, possibly even Brian Tyler Cohen. This subject of hate concerning Asians is going to be brought up. People that have been talking based off of experience in their lives and stuff, which is the idoubt.com podcast, starring Jesse Dollamore and his wife, who I can't remember right now. I do apologize for that, but it's the Dollamores that are doing their thing on idoubt.it, podcast.com. Follow them as well. Somewhere down the line, they're going to tackle the issue of hate concerning the Asian American Pacific Islanders. They've done it before, and they will again, no doubt. Everybody's got to throw their hat in on this, especially if it's coming down to a little guy like me with just the GED as the only proof of a valid education. I am no journalist. I'm just a guy with an opinion, and I'm standing it down here in South Central Texas in San Antonio, because most of the guys that are doing these podcasts are in major cities, and they're a hell of a lot more journalistic. And unfortunately for them, they've got some kind of, I don't know, journalistic restrictions to where they stick with only the facts and news articles that they can do researching and all this good stuff, as opposed to somebody like me that sees a problem with something and points it out of my own way. Did I do research? Yes, but again, I'm not a journalist. I'm not doing this professionally. I'm stumbling a lot, as you can tell. I'm staggering, and I've got a few things just written down in a notebook, and I've got it scripted on another notebook, and I'm losing my place with the notes out of the first notebook and all this stuff. I don't have a teleprompter. I don't have a laptop. This is all on my phone. So I am 100% amateur. But again, the reason why a lot of you out there actually watch my show is because of the simple fact that I'm just a guy, that I'm just the worker. After this, tomorrow, I'm going back to punching on a clock, and I'm going back to brown bagging my lunch before I take off and all this good stuff, and going back to talk around the water cooler, and back to paycheck to paycheck. I'm no different than most of you out there, and again, that's one of the reasons why you're watching me right now. I'm that guy. I'm that guy around the water cooler. I'm that guy that's that's throwing this stuff out there. I got to have a little bit of an opinion. There it is. And if you guys got anything to state, go ahead and write it. Say it in the comment section. I'm still posting my email and all this good stuff, and I want y'all to just let it out or throw a podcast of your own and state your comments the way I do. If you have any kind of journalistic abilities, do it like them instead. Take the pages out of the Dollamores, take the pages out of Ring of Fire, take some playbook pages out of the Young Turks and Rebel HQ. Okay, because again, I am just an amateur. I'm just a guy throwing my voice out there. They're the ones that are actually doing their research. BTC, TYT, all of them. Bo with the fifth column. They're the ones that are actually doing their research. I'm just a guy. I'm just a dude. In Texas. So that's my spiel. Y'all take care. Y'all take it easy. Keep taking care of each other. Keep on keeping on. This is Chris with Chris's Comments, signing out.